Sorry, we're getting started here in just a moment with our special YT History Month program featuring the wireless woman. So she'll be popping on here in a bit. And the way this is going to work is she's definitely more of the authority when it comes to understanding the shedding of the patriarchy, of white supremacy, of kind of all these isms and itises and things that we hold on to that are really the source of a lot of our ills in America today. So I'm very, very excited for her to be joining us. We're going to start with just introducing ourselves, introducing both of our platforms, and then moving into sort of the different pillars that hold up the patriarchy and white supremacy, particularly in America. And then I'm really just going to pick her brain to no end about like gender and how all that kind of stuff works. And so, thank you so much for joining. As we have people come in, just, hang tight. We're going to get started here in just a minute with the wireless woman. And she's just phenomenal. I've known her forever, like forever and ever and ever. And to see her excel as much as she has, it's just such a treat, especially just because her wisdom and her brilliance is finally being able to be seen by a broader spectrum of people. And it's just wonderful. She's one of the most beautiful Black women I've ever seen in my life. She is such a huge cheerleader and proponent and fighter for women. And so it's just lovely to see. So, you're in for a treat tonight. We're going to have about a 100 minute program where, again, we're going to start with just saying who we are and why we maybe feel like talking about this in the first place. Just to kind of set up who I am. If you don't know, I am Sophie. And we already have some comments from Mr. Tom. Uncle Tom here. Thank God for Trump ending wokeness and stupidity forever in America. All right, no worries. So you'll definitely have an opportunity to share your thoughts. We actually would love for you to come on as a guest, Tom, if you want to chit chat about why you feel that way and what it has to do with the topic at hand. That's perfectly fine. But we're going to be here. Oh, thank you, Liberation. Such a ray of sunshine. Such a sweet thing to say. Thank you. So we're just opening the space essentially for the conversation, but I'm going to really center it around the wireless woman. So when she comes on, we're really going to jump in and get started. But just as a quick overview for who I am Sophie of sexwithsophie.com. I host a couple podcasts, and my website is all about informing people on how to engage in difficult conversations around sex, sexuality, and sensitive subjects. And so since so much around the recent election and this current administration has centered around sexual topics in a weird way, like you wouldn't think that, right? But when it comes to abortion, trans rights, LGBTQ plus IA issues, so domestic violence, there's so much that's centered around my world. So that's how I ended up essentially moving into this more, politicized space. I have a show that I do just about nightly called Call a Liberal, where I, again, just open up the space for people to ask questions of a more left-leaning Southern American Black woman. So that's always really fun. So again, thanks for everyone who's joining and popping in. I have my 6-year-old tomorrow here trying to get on, but you cannot go to bed. I feel a lot of survivor's guilt because I was fortunate enough to escape. And so I presently live in the UK. And so that means it's 10 o'clock p.m. here. So if you're joining us from America, you're probably more in your early evening, which is lovely for you to take that time to be with us today. So I really appreciate that. Go to bed. Good night, baby. No, go to sleep. Say it through the door. What do you want to say?
Is Lunchables good for you?
What?
Is Lunchables good for you?
Yeah, you can get one. Go get one. She wants a Lunchable. Okay. I don't think they call it that here. I think it's like Dunkin' something. I don't know, but it's the same thing. So anyway, so sorry about that. Yeah, somebody, oh, hi from Ohio. Hi, Brittany. Yeah, so you guys are in like the twilight golden hour. I just see in women's sports, but that was a huge topic that I actually did an almost 3 hour video on. Because with sexwithsophie.com, I have a whole section of my site for my members called Ask Sophie. And somebody asked me about that. Like, do you really think that trans women can play with cis women? And I'm like, yeah, of course they can. Like, why not? Because research shows like a trans woman who's on HRT has less athletic capabilities than a cis woman. And so like, it was just this thing where I'm like, okay, everybody doesn't know that. Oh my gosh. So I ended up going through this whole, thing showing where your anger from this even comes from, how trans and intersex people have been in sports forever, how these women that were, the topic of question weren't even trans. They were just women. But how transphobia really hurts everyone, including cis women, and especially cis women of color. So it's one of those things where, again, me kind of talking about sex and sexuality and gender and sensitive subjects really, again, morphed into me talking about things that I didn't realize weren't as common, but might be the reason why some people are remaining in ignorance through no fault of their own, is what I'd like to believe about people. So, that's kind of why we're here today, because Donald Trump made March White Tea History Month. And so I dove right in, and every day I posted a special post. That's fine. Go to bed. Honey, you got to go to sleep. What do you want to say?
Because I wanted this to help my tummy.
It should help your tummy because it's not sugar. So go to sleep. Enjoy. Good night. That is my heart. Oh my gosh. She and I, again, she turns 6 tomorrow, which is so exciting. And she and I are doing a podcast, which is so sweet. So we have a couple episodes done, and it's called Sex Ed with Sophie. And so I'm teaching how to like talk to little kids about, again, sensitive subjects. And so our first episode was all about like, how to say no and no zones and no touch areas, and how to really stand firm in the fact that this is your body. And, it was just really, really, really cool. Yeah, John Esker, like you wouldn't think that you can talk to 5-year-olds about, this is what your body parts are. This is what this is, And honestly, research shows that children who know their anatomy and can say this is a PE, N, and this is a vagine, the proper words. I don't want to get banned. But the kids who know that, research shows that they are absolutely less likely to be molested, SA'd, and furthermore, that if they are victims, they're better able to explain what happened to them and to share, what went down. So it's just really, really going to be a really great podcast that I hope helps a lot of parents, a lot of kids. I'm talking to my 17, 18-year-old nephew about certain things. And so I think it'd be good to hear how you talk to literal children and teenagers about, again, sex, sexuality, sensitive subjects. So, yeah. You need to say it. But say what? Sorry. Oh, happy birthday, Mel. Thanks, Art and Insanity. Good to see you. Hi, friend. Oh, thank you so much, Fifi. Oh my God, my family calls me Fifi, which is crazy, right? Because so Sophie, Fifi is what they call me. But then my dad got a dog who's this. I love her, but she's this ugly little like bulldog, and he named her Fiona, but he calls her Fifi, and I'm like, Dad, really? Come on, man. It's just silly. Why? They're the majority and created this society, so kind of need to be centered for success. Women are the majority. Is that what you're saying, Rompy? Sorry if I missed that. Oh my gosh. But yeah, we're gonna like get started with the program proper as soon as Wireless Woman comes on. She is just, I'm telling you, she's a dynamo. She's one of the smartest people I have ever met. And I'm just so lucky. Like, I'm so lucky because we again, we know each other from way back, like before the 2000s, in the 99 and 2000s, okay? And so, like, for her to blow up in the way that she has, and then come back and, we've reconnected, and to be humble enough to come on my lowly baby TikTok platform is so incredibly amazing. Fifi asks, host, why did you choose this topic? You're curious. Basically I don't know, like, again, working in this space where I'm talking about sex and sexuality, sensitive subjects, trans rights, LGBTQ stuff, women in sports, all that. I saw so much like ignorance. I hate to say it that way, but just ignorance. And then I figured that it wasn't that the information's not out there. It's more so that there are people who like to remain in the ignorance because it helps them to feel sort of maybe more knowledgeable than they actually are. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect. And so the Dunning-Kruger effect is basically somebody with a little bit of knowledge on a subject can feel like they know, so much and feel much more confident in asserting something that they think about this subject that just might not be true. So the more you learn about a subject, the more you're, introduced to it, the more you're it's in your face a little bit. It really helps people to, I think, move out of that place of false understanding to a real understanding. And that understanding being, hey, maybe I don't understand much about this at all. And so that's what I'm hoping to do, because people don't reason. You'll hear me say this a lot. People don't reason themselves into a belief. They don't reason themselves into an argument. They're not logicking themselves into hatred. And so you can't logic reason information somebody out of these really negative, dark spaces. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a lot tonight. I've listened to The Wireless Woman for such a long time, and the way she will take us, like, she'll be talking about love and hip hop or Jonathan Majors and how he's reacting to Megan, what's her face, in their relationship, and she'll break it down the show like, he doesn't like her, and men who behave this way are really, showing how much they actually have like this insane level of animosity towards you. And so it's just her insight into people, human behavior is just unparalleled. So you're gonna love her. But just, again, a little bit more about me. I don't really share my credentials a lot, but I am a marketing business person by trade and by education. I have a bachelor's in marketing. I have a master's degree in healthcare informatics. And I also have like graduate certifications in management of information technology and cognitive neuroscience. And so I'm kind of all over the board. Basically, I was hoping to go down a route of like cyber, like telepsychology. So I have all this weird, like, technical, but also brain and psychology and information in my head from what I've been studying over the, in school and just in my real life and stuff. So that was the hope, but now I've kind of wound up here in some kind of weird way. So but definitely more of a marketer by trade. I've worked for so many nonprofits and school districts and DEI organizations, And so, this is where I think my knowledge base comes from, where what maybe qualifies me, but also I think I've had some pretty unique experiences in my life. So I did this thing once called just 30 reasons why I'm doing this. And just to think about some of the crazy shit that's happened in my life, like how a young man who wanted to have the sexy times with me would tell me like, oh, well, you won't get pregnant if you don't come, stuff like that. Like, and realizing that I'm not the only one who was lied to by men to try to, for them to try to get me in bed, and little silly stories like that. Like, please tell me if you have been told something in order for a guy to try to get you to go to the next step. I know you have. So that's one of the things, like all the little things that I thought were so silly in my life that I encountered. or even not so silly. Like, I was essayed, and to know that that experience wasn't unique to me. Um, I think it's beautiful that we actually can all share in our pains and our joys. What did you say?
Have you fed the dogs?
I did feed the dogs. Baby, it's like 10, almost 10:15. It's 10:15. Go to bed.
I'm student with
You don't have to feed the dogs. Are you still eating your food? Okay, go over there and eat your food.
My co-host. With my co-host, you will have to forgive
Please.
me because the patriarchy came in and set back my start time. So
No, you're fine. You're fine. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so tired. I hope this will let us do all of the other stuff that we wanted to do because so far I don't even see the share button where I can actually.
Hmm.
Hmm. Well, anyway, come on in and share out the live. Let me
Okay.
see.
Yes. Hi,
Um,
friends. Thanks everybody who's hanging in there with us. We're definitely
Exactly.
live and in effect right now. So.
Let's go ahead and get some likes on the board and let's get some shares in. So yeah, it's hold on, here's a share button. Oh, ow. Okay, it's a different little format, but we got it now. I'll even
Yeah, I
invite
definitely
the patriarchy
figured
to come
out.
watch. So how have you been
Got it.
today?
Got it. Okay. And I think that um basically I'm happy to just jump right in. I know we talked about our flow, but we also want to include you, dear viewers, in our conversation. So please know, like I'm trying to pick this beautiful woman's brain like all night. I was That would make me so happy.
Oh,
But I
thank
also
goodness.
understand, like, y'all might have some thoughts, y'all might have some things you want to interject with, and you're absolutely more than welcome to do that. So please hit that guest button if you want to, or can you?
Yeah, it looks like there's a guest button. There's a guest button.
Okay, okay, yeah. So you can definitely become a guest if you have a thought or want to share. But before we jump in, wireless, please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what your platform is, how this all came about.
Garden Witch. Yeah, so lovely, lovely, lovely co-host Sophia. Thank you so much for having me. This was all your idea, and I think it's great. We're here today to talk about decentering men and decentering whiteness, and that's really how this all came about. Was just seeing how many correlations there are between white supremacy and the patriarchy, which we know that all forms of patriarchy, whether it's marginalized patriarchy, whether it's traditional patriarchy, whether it's hybrid patriarchy, that all those forms of patriarchy are present in the United States, and that all of them are an offshoot of YT nationalism. YT, what did we say it was? Of white male nationalism, and so at the
Christian
end of the day,
Christian nationalist Christian
nationalism.
nationalist heteronormativity.
Right. And so we know all of those things are wrapped up in keeping one certain group of people in power. And so at the end of the day, we wanted to sit down together and have a conversation about how those correlations come about so that we can empower the sections and groups and margins of people, and inform them to be able to make lasting change. At the end of the day, each one of us gets our our generation, our time, our moment in the sun to be able to actually affect change. And the patriarchy and white male Christian nationalism thrives on the ignorance of the masses. So that's what we're here to do, is equip and inform.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, we can just jump right in. We essentially, in our conversations leading up to this, um like I have all month been doing a daily post, almost daily post, highlighting a different event or person in YT history. And in doing so, um I mean, I feel like I've kind of uncovered, where a lot of this hate emanates from, where white supremacy, where white supremacy has kind of woven itself into just every single aspect of America and culture. When the sad truth is that the concept of white, that is not even real. It doesn't even exist. And so like race as a whole doesn't even exist. So we were just talking about this, and I was like, you know what though, if we actually look at whiteness and the impact that it's had, that's really just America. That's really maybe like the 13% of America that's Black people that really feel the direct impacts of some of these things. So to me, the heavier hitting, I guess, thing you want to fix because it impacts most people is Wireless Woman's platform of decentering men. And so I really felt like we should look at the patriarchy and what that consists of, and that's comprised of whiteness. So if we were to look at the four pillars that are holding up the patriarchy, that includes whiteness, white supremacy, but it also is religion. It's also the idea of patriotism, nationalism, just capitalism, all the Americanisms. And also, I think it's sexuality and how we view, gender roles, sex, modesty, all these different things. And so, the fourth pillar would, of course, just be the whiteness aspect or race. So we're going to break down these different pillars as we move. And then I'm going to really try to tackle the big final boss of decentering men with the Wireless Woman. So let's start with religion. Let's try to knock down this first pillar of the patriarchy.
When you said final boss just now, I was like, yeah, decentering men, it really is the final boss. Like it's the one that's waiting when you get done with all of the racism, the sexism, the homophobia of it all. Like there's the final boss of decentering men waiting for you. So
yes. So
make sure to I did want to do a quick commercial right quick. Make sure you all share out the live for me. Y'all know how much I appreciate that, and I appreciate the likes as well, helping us to get the likes up and things like that. We don't have like any match goals or anything like that. The likes are free. We enjoy the type of money that jingles, but we prefer the kind that folds. We prefer to have the likes because that really helps us with engagement. So we're at 1.5K likes, and I appreciate that. Hey, Red Lipstick Vixen. And so just make sure you guys are sharing the live and liking the live so that we can get the people in here that really, that's gonna benefit from this. Because honey, we gonna break it all down.
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry. Cloud is like this girl.
Really? The religion.
Maybe go to bed. Go to bed. Go to bed, because then the sooner you wake up, it's your birthday. Go to bed.
Oh, happy birthday, Cloud.
Good night. Everybody said happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Cloud.
She said thank you. So sorry, guys. Thank you. But yeah, so when it comes to decentering religion, how would you say religion is centered in the first place?
Well, I think religion is something that's used for cognitive dissonance. It's something that's used to. I was actually having this conversation with someone where I was saying that worship, like we talk about male worship, especially in the Black community, Black male worship, we call it the BMW. And so I was talking about how worship is one of those things that can be used to replace relationship. Because as long as I come to church with my tithes, as long as I come with my offerings, as long as I pledge my time, as long as I'm praying, it doesn't really matter if there's no accountability there. It doesn't really matter if God answers my prayers, because if he didn't answer them, it was probably something that I didn't do exactly right. If he doesn't answer my prayers, then it's probably because, it wasn't the right thing for me or whatever it is. So it allows people to replace true connected relationship with tenants. And that is how we build on consumerism, capitalism, all these different things is by replacing genuine connection and relationships that have responsibility on both ends. Like, and it's funny because I know you're going to love this because it ties into centering whiteness. It's like when JFK asked, ask not what your government can do for you, but what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And so, like, when we talk about religion, that is how you're able to funnel in nationalism, capitalism, like all these different things that replace true class consciousness, true consciousness of your neighbor, or even self consciousness, being self conscious and self aware. All of those things can be eroded through religion, and you're placed with this figurehead. That's where the whiteness, the white male, nationalist God arises out of religious indoctrination.
And Tommy said that all that ism crap can be said about African nations. They do phobias with steroids. Not too sure what that has to do with America's isms, but thanks for that, Tommy. Essentially, though, like, I also see it as the fact that it's such a devastating tool. It's such a devastating cloak to put on your real intention. So essentially, like, when, especially with what I'm learning with this YT History Month research, seeing how especially Christianity was used to basically keep people enslaved and keep people feeling like that was the righteous thing to do, to remain captives, to remain, subservient, that you're closer to God by doing those things. Yeah. And then, it's just like you said, like, as soon as we moved into the more modern age, even the people who I hear come on and to my Call a Liberal show and stuff, and they'll say, oh, I'm an atheist. But I definitely still don't believe in, trans rights, or I think abortion is wrong or whatever. And it's like, well, you're still actually espousing and spouting all of these religious tenets. No matter if you don't believe in it at all, that's just what America was founded on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Even people who have not made God their religion have made their nation their religion, or they have made it's still the indoctrination that allows people to not see themselves as the main character in their own lives, to see themselves as offsuits. Oh, thank you for the live on air. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much, Art. But it allows them to see themselves as an extension of something that's greater than themselves. It allows them to pass off accountability and responsibility to another party. Like, the reason why things are so bad in this country is because of women having abortions. Not because people personally got up and contributed nothing to the goodness or greatness of society. And so that's what it allows people to do, is to disconnect from their own consciousness and social consciousness, because they're not thinking of all of the other issues that are connected to the problem that they have, to the problem that they feel is being presented. And that's what a religion allows people to be able to do. As much as people think it's bringing them into closer proximity, because I hate hearing Christians say, well, we just love everybody. We just
Right.
We just love everybody. But what is love?
Sin, but love the sinner. That kind of bullshit.
Yeah. What is love? And love, we know it's an action verb. So I think it's interesting, because even mostly all of the Abrahamic religions hang their hat on sacrifice. They hang their hat on this sacrifice that's required of you, of your neighbor, of everyone else, as being the way to God, being the way to goodness. And when you look at the correlation, that's basically the same thing that is required of people when it comes to white supremacy, white nationalism. That's the same thing. They say they want diversity, but what they want you to do is shed all things about yourself in order to, it's what's called corporatism. Right. And so now the religion becomes the corporation, or it becomes the vision of the company and the goal, and now it's a religion.
And what's so funny is, when I was younger, I went to school at Florida A&M for a little bit, and that was in the year 2000, when George Bush was, on the cusp of losing his presidential race, until his brother Jeb essentially got Florida in line, and then he won the presidency in the year 2000.
Hanging chads. We have hanging chads to thank for Bush.
Thank you. Oh, for sure. So, right. but I was in the courthouse in the Capitol building, excuse me, in Tallahassee, Florida, protesting. We were doing like a sleep in, and so we woke up that morning to George Bush being president, despite all of our efforts. And from that moment on, I was fucking just disenfranchised to the idea of politics, religion, voting, all that. I was like, fuck this. So it took me a while to understand just how important it is, why we got to vote, why we have to stay, locked in and linked in. But during that time period where I was again in my disenfranchisement, that was my thinking. Was like, okay, people who vote, you're dumb because literally all you're doing is you're voting and that's it. You think that you've done something because you voted and then you're done. Whereas I'm out here volunteering, I'm at the food banks, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm actually actively in my community. I'm joining clubs, I'm on boards. So I was like looking down essentially on people who voted, like, oh, that's all you did? That's all you did? That's the entire brunt of your, community servitude or whatever. And so I've since learned I've since especially learned that the more something is trying to be taken away from you, the more you really need to fight for it. So I'm definitely, I vote. I'm a voter, but I think that same mentality was why I didn't like religion even early on in my life. Was because it was like, oh, I've prayed. I'm praying for you. I tithe. I did something. I'm done. Like my grandmother died, and somebody's like, "Oh, I'll pray for you." Okay, how about send some flowers? How about make a casserole? How about literally? I just feel like it's such a stand-in for actual action, like you said. So I think religion as a whole.
It's been interesting how such a communistic concept is used for capitalistic reasons. That is what religion allows people to do, to become so disconnected from their self-awareness that they don't recognize that, like, yeah, we're coming together and we're putting all of our money in one pot to support this pastor, to support this church, to support the work of the ministry. That was always my favorite one. Right. The work of the ministry. But yet this person is going to get a private jet. They are going to, and they're going to do it all under the guise of the work of the ministry. And I feel like that cognitive dissonance that people gain from religion and just dogma, just being dogmatic about anything, it can completely disconnect you from your own best interest in that way. Because like you said, they're in the church there. I remember I used to be at Elevation, not to like name drop any churches, but and it was this one
like the church.
It was completely run by volunteers, like, and it was like this great service that we came in. We now I started to think about that thing, and I was like, okay, so they get all this unpaid labor. It started to feel just like a marriage, like you're a wife and you get to be married, but
it's not unpaid. It's not unpaid though, because you're paying.
Exactly, I'm paying for the ministry that I volunteer for. That and so it was like you're crazy. That, right, it was crazy. Once I started thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute. So
like I have been boozled and bammed and boozled. Yes, exactly.
Yes, I have been hood and winked and hood. And so that's what religion allows. It is, in my opinion, the gateway drug of all other isms, because we know that religion was the base, like the Crusades and a lot of things like that. Religion was the basis for a lot of race-based, race-based conflict. We'll say it that way.
Right.
Was this whole concept of a chosen people and a chosen group. We see that same thing in the patriarchy, that male is the default gender, and then you see that same thing in religions where there's this, even the genocides that we see is really over land that's supposed to belong to a people because they are God's chosen people.
Yes. Like and what is that called too? That's the prosperity doctrine, prosperity
gospel. Yeah, manifest destiny.
Yeah, that whole thing.
All these things came about because of religious indoctrination.
Yeah, but I mean that indoctrination now, that whole prosperity gospel concept of if the more you give, you're just basically putting into this future fund that you can withdraw from when you die,
Yes,
essentially,
yes, you're
or
gonna
when
go
you're
to heaven.
unalive. Sorry.
Exactly. You're
Um,
going to go to heaven and you're going to get all of the, even though all of the crap flowed down in your life, you're going to get to heaven and be at the top of the pyramid. You're no longer going to be at the
exactly.
bottom where you are right now. Just keep giving me your money. And in the next life, in providence, in nirvana, in heaven, you're not going to be on the bottom anymore.
Valhalla, all of it, exactly. So no, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think what's so crazy though is like my grandfather um, was a Presbyterian minister. I grew up in the church. You know,
Yeah, I know.
say that one more time.
I say, I know this.
Yes, yes. So but I feel like I've almost always my whole life at least been agnostic, and then when I got to college, it was like full. I'm a very, very strong. Yes, I'm a very strong atheist. And to me, it was almost like, okay, once you realize there is no Santa Claus,
Yep.
how is it possible to re-believe in Santa Claus? So it's wild to me when I meet people who are like, "Oh, I used to be atheist." No, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because it's impossible. So I think maybe that's one of the first steps in the whole decentering religion pillar.
Yeah.
Is the more you, I think, teach people about their own religion, and then B, kind of look at the fact that, why are you believing in this in the first place? A lot of people will say, oh, well, how do you know what's right from wrong? How do you build your moral compass? And it's like, oh, do you think that me being an atheist, suddenly I have this desire to go out and do crazy things? Like, no.
Now
You
you're
know,
living.
yeah, we're humans. We have an inherent humanity to us. And if
Yeah.
anything, I think that religion does more to strip that away.
Yep,
By
that's how
telling
you
you
say
that
it's definitely more dehumanizing. And
yes,
I
yes.
mean, I can say like I'm religious about certain things, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
religious about decentering men. Yeah, I
Yes.
get it every day, and I make it my religion. But the indoctrination piece though is the part
Yeah.
that allows people to be able to remove religion and, like you said, insert something else.
Hmm.
Like MAGA is a religion. I don't care. It's not a political affiliation anymore. And that's the
Hmm.
reason why when people say, oh, I'm just, conservative, and that's the reason why no, you can be conservative and not necessarily be MAGA. Like this is
Exactly.
this is the reason why so many people are distancing and divorcing themselves from the decisions that they have made because they
Hmm.
made them under the guise of cult like nationalism, patriotism. Religion allows for that type of indoctrination in the mind so that you can do things that are against your best interest without feeling personally responsible for them. So I think a big part of centering men and decentering white supremacy as they go hand in hand with each other. Because, and I said this when we were preparing for this live, I told you, I said, I fully believe that all men, the whole mission of the patriarchy, is working towards solidifying white supremacy. So
Oh
whether it's
yeah.
marginalized patriarchs like black men, they are still a part of the white male Christian nationalist agenda regardless. It
Absolutely.
doesn't matter. We as black women cannot connect ourselves to black agenda and think that it is devoid of white nationalism. Just to put it.
Exactly.
So with that being said, a huge component, like when we talk about the pillars that are holding this up,
Hmm.
religion is one of those components that we can't pull the whole thing down without deconstructing it.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and so what would be, I guess, some everyday actions that people can take to actively begin to decenter religion, whether they're religious themselves or not?
Or not, yeah. And I think it's interesting because we're two people who are saying the same thing coming from two totally different upbringings. Because I grew up with
Right.
a father that was Seventh-day Adventist, a mother that was Jehovah's Witness. Like, yeah, it's woo. When I say that, people
My,
go,
my dad's side was Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah.
what? Oh my gosh! But I think what really helped me to get there was the actual story of Jesus. Like, it doesn't matter what component, like I always tell people, white supremacy and patriarchy, because they're synonymous in a lot of ways, are completely unsustainable systems. If you follow the money, if you follow the trail back, you will find nothing but fallacy, confusion, confusion. You're gonna find it if you're just willing to go far enough to look for it. And so if you just even look at the story of Jesus, you got this Palestinian born man who is supposed to be the king of the Jews, right? You got
Right.
a man who is in an occupied state. His nation is under Roman occupation. He is a man who is clearly a socialist feminist. He's clearly a Marxist feminist. Everything that he preaches and he talks about is Marxism, socialism, and communism. He says, give Caesar Caesar and give God what's God. This is a man that is constantly calling out the religious structure of his day. He's calling Pharisees and Sadducees whitewashed tombs full of dead men's bones. This is a man that is constantly condemning the religious order of his day.
Absolutely.
And then they established a religion under this man. Like, this is crazy. Like, when you actually sit down and read the book, like you're either not gonna read it at all, or if you're gonna read it, read the whole thing, and you will realize that it is really the story of a falsely accused man who comes up against the patriarchy and is martyred by the patriarchy, despite the fact that this man can provide healing. Okay, like we sit around and talk about the broken healthcare system. Here's a man that heals people. Despite the fact that this man talks about gender equity, they want to stone this woman for the fact that she's in an adulterous affair, but where's the man?
Right.
There's a man that is constantly talking about taking care of widows, orphans, and strangers.
Sex workers.
But yet we're supposed to believe that this man would be against all of those things. So it's like the weirdness of it all for me. So I think that the practical thing that people can do, and this is really like the full wireless woman perspective and platform, if I was to give like my thoughts as like the wireless woman on how to practically do this, because I had to do it in my own life, it would be follow whatever your conviction is to its conclusion. Be relentless about what it is you believe in. If you've ever been a Christian who has been accosted by an atheist or an agnostic, and you found yourself you found yourself stonewalling and not really able to provide an answer to what they were saying, go find that answer and go figure out why you didn't have the answer when you were asked. Because I honestly believe that if you follow religion all the way down to its source, if you believe like you say you believe, you research like you say you believe, you study like you say you believe, you will find the fallacy.
Yeah, but they won't. They don't.
Yeah, hey, never saying you'll break the power of it and you'll break the spell of it over you if you actually follow it all the way down. That's what I believe.
No, you're right. What's funny is even if you apply that same thinking to something that you're mad, like, this is what I don't understand. I'll have conversations with people who are so mad about like AB. Thank you, Brittany, for that. They'll be so mad about AB. And I am so sorry. My husband has work in the morning, so he's like, she's not sleeping. But
people on my platform know Sophie is in England. She's in England.
It's 11.
She's in Europe. So it's late over there where she is. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so we're not trying to be miserly or anything, but anyway, so I have somebody who's so upset about AB. And I'm like, okay, first of all, they don't know anything about it.
Hold on one second, if you don't mind. Max Tua is in my comments losing his mind. I would block you if this was just my live, but I'm going to let you keep saying what you're saying for no reason at all. But he's saying Democrats are the reason Black Americans are disproportionately poor. And that is exactly what we're sitting here talking about, the issue, which is the fact that you made your political affiliation your religion. If you honestly believe that Democrats are more responsible for poverty than Republicans, then you yourself have been bamboozled, hoodwinked, run amok, and led astray, sir.
You know what? What's his name? Matt?
Max CUA.
Max,
Max Tour.
Max, you know what? I'm gonna give you one. You're absolutely right. And you want to know why? Because the parties that set up all the Jim Crow laws, all the redlining, all the BS that we're still having to live under and feel the effects of today, that was the Democratic Party back when the ideologies were flipped. So what party was it that freed the slaves? Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. You know, so I mean, ultimately, yeah, you're right. The Democrats, as they stood for, you know, more conservative values and more racist and segregation policies back in the day, yeah, they did fuck us up. So you're absolutely right on that. But again, it's exactly what Wireless is saying. You can't hang your hat on a political movement, on a party, on it, you know, because
And it
honestly,
was crazy because he's trying to pull me into a nationalistic argument about it by bringing up Black Americans just because I am Black, not even understanding that even if Democrats were responsible for keeping Black Americans poor, Republicans are responsible for keeping white Americans poor.
Yo, honestly, and that's so let me throw out a good book recommendation for you, Max. You might want to check out The Sum of Us. It really is a amazing telling and showcasing of how this zero sum thinking that if black people are doing worse, then white people must be doing better, and if Democrats are doing this, then Republicans, that whole zero sum thinking that for somebody to get a piece of pie, you're missing out on your slice. It's bullshit. It's fake. It's imaginary. So highly recommend, again, The Sum of Us to help you move yourself out of this way of thinking. Because, sweetheart, you and me and Wireless, we all have way more in common with each other than you ever will with Donald Trump, with Elon Musk. So you better get on board with us, sweetheart. Okay? That's just my recommendation.
The topic of the day, and before we move to the next pillar, the topic of the day here lately has been segregation, because they're trying to get us to identify with more nationalistic views. And I told everybody, I'm not going. Listen, y'all said black men were the leaders, and they said to integrate. Okay, that's what they said. They stopped building their community so they could integrate. So I'm not going back. I'm not going back in segregation with them. They don't have a school, a hospital, a grocery store chain. They'll have to come get. So I'm gonna be okay over here.
Right. If they segregate by race and gender, maybe. Maybe. I would love a society with nothing but black women. Are you kidding? The food? Are you? Yo, we could raise our kids together.
Society.
Oh my god. The clothes, the music.
Yeah. And see, that's why
shit.
That's why I said because we can't even go into a fully black woman society and it be what it needs to be without decentering men. Like, we're not going to be able to take these with us into that and it be anything other than just a black woman version of the same thing.
Exactly. So you're absolutely right. Brittany, you know what? You can come to the cookout, sweetheart. You know that. Let's see.
That's why I was about to say, I don't know if we pull them up, if it takes us down or not. You can try it.
All right, I'm gonna move on to our second pillar. No, that's another thing though. We have a question. I don't know if you can read it, but in this pillar, we would love for you, audience, to let us know what you think the world would look like without religion. Like, is it something you've ever thought about? If so, like, share your vision with us. You're welcome to come on as a guest or either share your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, I don't know if we can pull them up because I might have to drop it and just come back to your live. But let's go ahead and do our zero genocides. Wonderful. Okay, I'm getting comments on my side. I don't think you can see, but they're saying a world without zero genocides, and it would be wonderful. What do your comments say?
No, I don't have any as of yet. I'm a baby TikToker, y'all. So Wireless is definitely gonna probably have.
Thank y'all for the 5K though. I will say these likes have been going up. Let's keep liking. Our next goal is going to be 10K, and I do want to make sure that we're sharing out the live so that we can get the engagement. Because eventually we are going to open up the panel. I'm not sure if we can do it without Disconnect. It says you'll
Well,
disconnect creators if you go live with guests. That's what it says. So I'm gonna probably
right.
drop and then come to your platform, and then that way they'll be able to request. But for
Okay,
right
that'd
now,
be fine. That'd be fine. Like I
let's go
can
through the
add you
pillars.
as a guest if we need to.
Yeah, yeah.
No worries.
We'll go through the pillars first, and then we'll come back to open the panel up.
That sounds good. Yeah, we can just move on to our second pillar, and we'll just wait for guests. But yeah, definitely share your thoughts. So moving into our next pillar, we're talking about basically what it takes to decenter America, what it takes to decenter patriotism, nationalism. So what do you think the world would look like without borders? But while you're thinking on that or sharing in the comments what you think the world would look like without borders, Wireless, why don't you tell us what the centering of America looks like? What's the current state of a centered, patriotic, and nationalist America?
So we know that what has made America the quote unquote land of the free, home of the brave, whatever it is, has been being the world leaders in imperialism and colonization. It's been, they call America the great experiment for a reason. America has been a social experiment on whether white supremacy and patriarchy could be broadly and widely accepted by groups of people. And America has shown that. America has shown that for all of the social progress, all of the social prowess, like we are the richest country in the world with the poorest people. Like it is, people say of America as a third world country with a Gucci belt.
I think I've heard that one. I like that.
But our
Um,
nationalism, like religion, doesn't allow us to see the country and our part in it. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, we've been over here protesting genocide. Genocide, like our country's not funding it. Like
oh my gosh, exactly. And like
we,
everywhere,
we're just gonna
everywhere.
act like
Oh
it's
my
not our
gosh.
problem. Like we're just gonna boycott Starbucks and be like, I did my part. It's kind of the
Thank
same thing
you.
you said about Christians being like, I prayed.
Yes, I'm done. So you know what? Maybe we should. Maybe that's one of the hammers in these pillars. That's one of the sledgehammers. Is recognizing and confronting your own ambivalence.
Mhm.
Or your own fake action, or the idea that you've done something, because of some bullshit. Even I hate to say it, but even like now, of course, I'm a big supporter of like BLM and stuff, but like to me, it's like you're railing against a system that, like, you're trying to fix a system that's not broken. It's working exactly as intended. Okay, like oh, we got police out here, unaliving black people. Yeah, that's what they're meant to do. Do you not know where police came from? Police came from slave catchers. Did you not know that the entirety of America was by law required to observe and capture and harass and keep in line black people? So they're literally just doing their jobs. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of wild to me, that people don't understand that, a protest ain't gonna do nothing. A sign changing your frame on your social media profile picture, literally all of that is such virtue signaling to me. It's like,
Yeah.
if you really want to do something, that's I guess what we're here to talk about. So, again, getting rid of that ambivalence, understanding where the things that you think you're making a dent in this whole situation, but not moving the needle, recognizing that and owning where maybe you did it because it made you feel better, but it wasn't actually helping the cause you want to champion. So
Yeah. I do think that nationalism, though, is the most insidious of all isms. And I was actually working on a background that says, I know black, I'm Dominican. Because a lot of people think that their nation, their nationality can save them. It is deifying your nation and it becomes a rallying cry. It becomes like we don't get Nazi Germany without nationalism. Like
All
I know
right.
people hate to really look into how insidious nationalism is, but a form of nationalism is, Bloods and Crips, power rules, where we can say we belong to this particular place, this particular set, and now we're willing to trade our individual identity to become part of this thing that we expect to protect us. We expect us. We want to be endued and imbibed with power that we cannot attain on our own. So now we're going to connect ourselves to this body that is supposed to provide for us an identity, an identity that makes us feel like we're greater than ourselves. Nationalism is something that people are willing to be unalive and unalive for.
Absolutely. And you know what? Brittany said such a really poignant thing. She said, I feel like without racism, there would be no borders.
Mm-hmm.
Facts. Facts. So, honestly, too, audience, if you want to answer that question as well, what do you think the world would look like without borders? Please feel free to comment and let us know what your thoughts are. Honestly, too, like that's one of the things that is so wild that as we kind of move through these pillars, you'll see how it's not that they stand side by side, it's like they stand on top of each other,
Yes.
you know? So you don't have nationalism without that gateway drug of religion, where you're just replacing maybe God or Jesus with America and Trump, So it's kind of wild to me to see how the interconnectivity of it all is working out. But
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so I
I
mean,
mean,
honestly,
the
sorry,
Christian
what's up?
platform to completely hijack politics and national identity. Even saying "Make America Great Again" as a slogan for a certain political party, when you think about it, is crazy work.
Right? Like when was again, sir? When again? Again when? Again for who? Like, I
Yeah.
totally agree. That's always thrown me. Always thrown me.
Yeah,
Hi,
and
B.
then you can take nationalism and you can interchange it with a lot of other sociological elements of it. Like religion takes it from an interpersonal level, but in a societal level, nationalism, fascism, capitalism, all of these things, corporatism, all of these things speak to, it's just branding. Like think about when you see the golden arches, that's McDonald's. You automatically equate a certain set of values, a certain food types, names, brands, jingles, all those things to
Yeah.
mind when you just see those arches, just the symbolism, just the red cap, just and that's what nationalism is meant to do. It's meant to give people this whole entire program to operate by based on this affiliation to this thing. I saw it and I'm gonna say this and land my plane. I saw it in Greek letter organizations like this week throughout the Black community. They've been talking about Caleb Wilson and him, being unalived by his fraternity brothers.
Oh no,
And
what? I didn't know. Like, is that recent?
yeah, yeah.
I'm out of the loop. Sorry. Can you explain real quick and then go
Oh
into it?
yeah, absolutely. You know me. I always have my
For sure you do.
but let me see here. Caleb Wilson, Southern University student. Caleb Wilson's unaliving. I do not want to relaunch this. Okay.
Sorry.
His unaliving is a tragedy that highlights a larger problem with fraternities. And so, like I was saying, a lot of the men who were there were a couple of police officers that were involved in the Tyree Nichols unaliving and deletion that were also Omega Psi Phi. I'm gonna call y'all fraternity out. I don't care because whatever the hell is going on over there, y'all need to talk to each other. But they were some Qs as well, and so this happened in a Q fraternity line that this child was unalived, that somebody's kid, somebody's strong Black man was unalived by other Black men. And that's why I was saying that this nationalism, this patriotism, it can even transcend race and gender.
Oh, of course.
This is the glue piece for people being able to actually reach across race and gender to identify with value systems that don't benefit.
I mean, like that even speaks to the religion piece. Like again, how is it that any Black person can be Christian can in today, knowing that that's the religion of your colonizer. Like, how can you possibly? And like even today, like you said, it transcends race and gender. Like, you have black cops, black female cops. Like, how? Like, that's insane to me. So like, yeah, for sure. I can see that
Yeah,
for sure.
understanding the history of it. And like I said, I've been an officer, I've been in Greek letter organizations, and all of the indoctrination behind how you can get out here and delete your own people and, police when you know it's being, when you know a community's being over policed and different things like that is they tell you it's a thin blue line, like it's not Black Lives Matter, it's blue lives that matter. And try to get you to identify as a part of this group, and now your job is to protect this group, representation of this group. We see in the fallout of what happened that they started covering for each other. Nobody wanted to tell the truth. We see it in the black community with no snitch culture, because
Right.
put the culture, we put black nationalism above the best interest of black lives.
Right. Right. Oh
And
wow.
that's where political activism loses its power to actually help black people, because the black nationalism oftentimes is a cover for anti-black behavior. And it's the same thing with, like, most of this behavior we've been watching under the guise of Make America Great Again is actually anti-American rhetoric. Like,
Mm-hmm.
everything we've been told about why we should take pride in being Americans is because this is the one place on earth where, creed doesn't matter, color doesn't matter,
Free speech. Yeah.
yeah, like
Language doesn't matter.
exactly, we read the Constitution and we're supposed to feel invigorated by this belief that anybody can be somebody in America. And now
Right.
we're watching them say that American values are, getting rid of immigrants, taking away women's rights, repealing
Right.
PI. And it's like, are you, what?
Right. Even the idea that, we want small government, especially if you look specifically at the Conservative Party, we want small government, but we're gonna put government in your doctor's offices and in your uteruses and control, and we're gonna have a database on where you're traveling, and like it's insane to me, like how big the government has to be to fulfill these Project 2025 Christian nationalist heteronormative ideals. So it's like you said, they're going against not only what America and the Constitution stand on, the whole free speech thing of suddenly we're going to take away your green card for exercising your free speech, shit like that. Like, it is absolutely it's very anti-constitution, anti-American, anti-conservative,
As a matter of
anti-Republican.
fact, if they had segregation at the time that the country was being formed, like, we have to remember segregation was a product of was a product of the abolition of slavery, right? So if you think about it, like, if they had started with that principle,
Mm-hmm.
America would never even be what it is. It was them bringing Africans from Africa to learn how to actually grow crops. Like, people think they brought Africans for labor. They brought Africans for engineering. They brought them
Yeah,
because they were the best group of people on nation building. Not because
exactly.
they didn't know anything, not because they were dumb, not because they were slow, because they could grow things, they could heal things. They had all kind of diseases over there. They went and got the
Yeah,
Chinese to build the railroad systems. They went and got the
the
Japanese.
Japanese. Yes,
So this country has been built on the same principles now that they are trying to deny as what would make America great. And
You know what? Even take it further back. Take it further back. The fact that when they came over here, when the first colonizers came to Plymouth Rock and all that stuff, they had traders and fishermen that would come along the coast from Europe and stuff. So just from that little interaction, they spread so many diseases
mm-hmm.
that by the time the colonizers proper landed on Plymouth Rock, 90% of the Native Americans, the indigenous people, were unalive. So they literally landed on the shores, and saw houses fully built, crops that were already growing that needed harvesting, land that they could just replant, and they make it out like they came into America, into this wilderness with these
Yeah.
savage people. It's like, no, they literally wouldn't have had anything without,
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Even take it back even further than that. What were they fleeing? They were fleeing being overpopulated in their countries, diseases, being under resourced,
religious persecution.
religious persecution. A king that was mad and beheading.
Reason Trump wants to be king. That's the truth.
Exactly, beheading. Royal families that were inbred in. So at the end of the day, like, if they had the answers on it, they never would have been willing to brave the seas to come looking for help and asylum. They were the original asylees and refugees. So,
thank you. Exactly.
Yeah. And that type of backwards thinking is why, like I said, YT supremacy will always be an unsustainable system, because how do you get here and spit on the same exact concept that created safety for you and want to deprive it from other people? And that's what the patriarchy does it to women and children, and YT supremacy does it to other, nationalist groups. That's why without religion, without nationalism, they would not have the power and the strength of being able to weaponize groups of people against other groups of people.
Exactly. And what's crazy is, again, the fact that they did all that and it's baked into the culture. Like, that's what's so sad about seeing people rail so hard against it. Like, oh, I can't believe, Trump said he was going to do this, but then he did that. I can't believe they said they weren't going to touch this, and then they touched it. Like, how can you see that that's not the feature? It's not a bug. That's how it's meant to operate. So, like, think about those same colonizers. The only reason they actually were able to form America in the way that they did is because they continually lied. They continually broke promises. They continually took advantage of the people who were being kind to them. And so it's like, if you think they weren't going to do that to the Native Americans at every turn, at the people they brought over, like you said, as originally indentured servants to help them build their culture and then turn around and enslave them, it's absolutely insane to me, like, that you would think that this same America that was built on this is now suddenly going to honor, some BS about, oh, we're not going to touch the Department of Education. We're not going to, what's Project 2025? What is that? I don't even know. Like, no, you got to understand, like, that's, it's built in. And I think, honestly, I don't know if it's because we're Black women or what, but I think we've always seen it. We've always seen it. I think it's why we voted the way we did. I mean, we knew it.
It's definitely because we're Black women. We sit at the intersections where there is no privilege. There is no privilege in being a woman. There's no privilege in being Black. There's no privilege in being queer. Like, if you're a Black queer woman, like, there is nothing.
The more intersectionality, the worse it is. Yeah, you're right.
There's nothing we can hang our hat on to say we have a power group. That's why you see so many Black women being willing to be pro-Black, despite the fact that we know how much pro-Black women in that they were asked to give up their bodies by the Black Panthers. Like, there was, even that didn't provide equity for us, or they had equality because we know they had women captains, they had this, they had that, but it didn't actually provide Black women with equity. We tried the women's liberation movement, where we put our, cap behind white women in order to be able to have a power base and a power source and a voting block and an economic block and an educational block. And we see how that worked out. So we don't experience any privilege. And that book I was telling you about, where it's like, all the women are white, all the Blacks are males, but some of us are brave. So Black women fall through the cracks of privilege every single time, and that's why we can see it.
Hey, with that, I'm going to go ahead and move us into our third pillar, because that's like a perfect segue.
I've got 7K. I've got 7.4K likes on my live.
Oh, wow. I got
But
about 3.9. That's amazing.
right, and that's what I was getting ready to say. I've got 11 followers in here. So what I'm going to do is close my room out. I'm going to come into yours, and then we'll just share the live out as one live. That way we can get some of our people who are watching. They'll be able to come up here. So
Okay,
I'm
plus
gonna
you guys can comment in one space, so that makes sense. That's
yeah.
so
So
nice.
I'm gonna find down. Everybody follow Sex with Sophie. Is that
Just
is that
hashtag, no E.
okay? And
Yeah.
no E. That's right. Follow my co-host. And follow me over to her room where we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Okay, we're gonna tear the paint
Yeah,
off the
this
wall.
is a pretty spicy one, so.
Yeah, books, coffee, garden witch. I really want to see you over there because I know you got some insights on intersectionality.
Yeah. Ooh, yes.
So let's go over there, you guys. I'm gonna close out and then we're gonna move over to Sex No Eat with Sophie's room. Okay, I'll be over there in a minute.
Thanks, Wireless.
Absolutely.
And Brittany said she saw it too. Can't understand how all women didn't see it, but MAGA women exist still. And honestly, that's why I'm so happy to have this woman on our talk, because that's her thing. Is like it's not even about MAGA. It's not even about Republican, conservative. It's about men fucking it up for everybody. So, and the fact that you have men-centered women, and that's really anybody who's MAGA is a men-centered woman. And I'm so sorry. She is just crazy sauce. All right, let me get her back up here.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's loud over here in your room. I get over here, I'm like, oh goodness.
Now I got this little nugget. Thank you, Brittany. She's just not sleeping. It's about 11:15 almost my way. And so, yeah, sorry about that.
But yeah, I was gonna say too that there's and we've got it open up as far as my folks came with me. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you for joining.
We're gonna open it up too to get your insights on this because the biggest thing that people have to realize is that at the top of all of the fragility that we see in this system, because if you were to build a Lego system, right, if somebody just gave you some Lego, just gave you some building blocks, there's no way you would build it this way. It would be so top heavy that it would be completely unsustainable. Like if we were to look at capitalism, nationalism, sexism, all of these isms just as a system of building blocks, if you took the people and the humanity out of it, there's absolutely no way you would let 5 men have 70% of the wealth in one country and think that made sense, that would be helpful.
Exactly. Especially after having gone through Reaganomics and learning that the whole trickle down thing is bullshit. Like, how are we still here? And you know why? Here's how we're still here. It's because you have mediocre white men and the women who love them thinking that can be them too. That they can have that one day too. And they have no concept that, it takes 13 days to count to 1 million, but it takes like 23 years or so, 32 years or something like that to count to 1 billion. Like the levels of magnitude that you're off in proximity to these people is astounding. And so just the idea that because they're white, or they want to have proximity to whiteness, think that they're still in the same league as these people. Like they genuinely feel like they're closer to them than they are to us. And I see Books wants to join. I'm going to pull you up. We're talking about decentering whiteness and decentering men today. Hi, Books. Do you have thoughts on what the world would look like without phobias?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've always said, like I mentioned it earlier, but with religion, like religion is to me, a great tool that people hide behind to commit atrocious acts.
Yep.
And while I feel like any tool could be used for good, a lot of times it just inevitably ends in destruction. And especially patriarchal religions. And like, I think like we're kind of seeing this weird kind of like rise in attendance for white men now. And I think that it's going to lead to a lot of demise of churches and community churches, because from what I've experienced, and I think that a lot of people would agree, even churches are run by women. They may not be allowed to be the figurehead, but I can guarantee you that they are the ones making everything work, whether they're in the background or they're allowed up front.
Isn't that called the Matilda effect or something like that, where like men will do stuff based on what a woman did, or the woman is actually doing it, but they'll take credit for it. And that happens so much. That's actually like a thing, the Matilda effect, apparently. Art, thank you so much. I'm so sorry, I got my child here.
I'm gonna have to get mine.
She's giving us her opinions too.
It was interesting, but I do think, like you said, it's an anonymity. It's a tool that's used for anonymity. I was actually working on some content where I was talking about how instead of good men, if there is a such thing, I say not. Instead of good men, policing and controlling bad men, they would rather create cover for them. And I feel like religion and national, it creates cover for atrocities, like what you were saying, and it allows people, and I think that's the most detrimental. By decentering these platforms, and what people have to understand, because even me and Sophie were talking about it, where she was like, well, what are actionable steps? Like, decentering is just the first step. Like, that's not the plan. The plan is to dismantle, but decentering is the thing that allows you to be able to see what needs to be dismantled.
So as we move into talking about dismantling, which starts with decentering sexuality, like, again, just let us know, like, where we are now. Like, what does it look like as America today in the realm of this whole centered sexuality, according to you, Wireless?
Oh, okay. Like I said, the default gender is male, and so YT male fragility, scarcity mindset model calls for the control of reproduction. Reproduction is a means of production, just like they want to control the means and modes of production. In a capitalistic system, the aristocracy or the oligarchs, or whatever you want to call them, the bourgeoisie, they have to control the means of production, because if you were able to produce things on your own, you wouldn't need them for the means of production. So we go to work and then they give us a paycheck, or they give us money in exchange for our labor, but the whole time they own the means of production. And so I think heteronormativity is about owning the means of reproduction. It's about treating women's bodies like factories that have to be owned by certain people in order to make sure there's enough people coming into the earth. Because, now they're complaining about, the birth rates and all this different thing. But when you allow people to control their own sexuality, their own bodies, they may not choose what benefits these people. And so ultimately, because male is the default gender, women only get to be women with the permission of men. That's true for trans. That's true for gay. That's true for women only get to be sexual creatures or have gender, or we know they removed the word woman from the Constitution. to make sure
Right.
that women would never be actual human beings protected under the law. So
Absolutely.
because their reasoning for doing all of those things is to keep control of reproduction. I think heteronormativity is their means of being able to police the sexuality of everyone else, sexuality of everyone else, sure that those people are only doing what benefits the male skill.
All right. But no, I agree. I agree. I also think when it comes to the idea of what would the world look like without these phobias, and I think that includes misogyny. Um, I think it would be just so beautiful. Like if gay men who were in the closet, undercover, you letting him do the bending,
Yep.
that if they didn't have that fear, if they didn't have so sorry. Oh my god. Oh my gosh, my child. But yeah, if they didn't have
Stigma. I think
that
stigma.
stigma, exactly, then how much more beautiful could their lives be? I think there's so much in the way of, we talked about like policing a little bit and how that started from like slave catching and stuff. But there was so much that was like normalized even when it came to sexuality, like how sodomy was illegal and being gay was illegal. You could get arrested. Even was it Alan Turing, like the guy who like gave us modern day computers, was arrested and chemically castrated for being gay, and so to think that, just like we know that because the Emancipation Proclamation happened and we had civil rights and all that, that because Obama became president doesn't mean that racism went away overnight. It's the same thing, that as gay marriage was legalized, as being gay was less stigmatized, as we're recognizing more sexualities and gender difference along these different spectrums, it doesn't change the fact that there are still these long standing stigmas and like I said, phobias for these groups of people who we're part of too. Books, you were talking about intersectionality a little bit earlier. It's the same thing. Like, it's not like there aren't black queer women. It's not like there aren't black intersex people. It's not like there. Oh my god. Yeah. So it's just, it's kind of sad to me when we think that we're so post-racial or post-homophobic, or whatever, when we're so not. We're so not. So like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I'm sorry,
So
not to talk over books either, but we were talking about how it's a system of capitalism, and you can tell that because the cultures who existed before nationalism and patriarchy, these unnatural systems. When you look at indigenous people and native peoples, they had two spirit. They had this concept
right.
of being genderless. We know that because they lived in balance with nature, they had women that led, that led clans and families and groups of people because it was qualified leader and not some, so the fact that we moved backwards and we're having to keep moving in this way, the what used to be the naturally accepted order of sexuality and things like that. People think this is progressive. It's not. Get us to 5K likes, you guys, so we can share out, get the live pushed out to FYP and hashtag FYP in the comments. So let's just keep liking up the live.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks to everybody that's joined and that's liked and gifted, and you're absolutely welcome to come on as a guest, especially if you want to answer our prompting questions. Right now we're asking, like, what would the world look like without phobias, homophobia, transphobia, misogyny, and what we've been talking so far about the pillars that hold up the patriarchy.
And I'm actually so glad you put misogyny in that category, because I think so many people are not aware that it is a fear-based hatred of women in power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fear-based thing. They just think it's a social descent, when it actually is a fear-based hatred of women in power.
Absolutely. I mean, so even look at how the intertwining of these pillars, because again, when I think of pillar, I think of things standing in a row, but the pillars of the patriarchy that we're talking about build on top of each other. They're stacked on top of each other. So we talked about religion, we talked about patriotism, Americana, nationalism, and now we're talking about like sexuality. And one of the things that I think hits all three of those is the whole AB conversation. So Brittany was saying earlier, we can't really say abortion, we have to say AB. So that kind of that kind of marries all of that for me. Hey Red, thanks so much for joining. So like when I think about the fact that the only reason that people are mad about AB is because of religion. They try to say that, oh, it's against my religion, when in reality, there's literally no mention of AB in the Bible at all.
No.
Like
No.
not at all. In fact, I'm lying. There is one. Numbers 5:11 is a how-to guide on how to perform an AB. So literally, the Bible has nothing bad to say about AB. It gives you a guide for how to do it if you think your wife is cheating on you. And then also, God unalives specifically pregnant women all the time. It's kind of his thing. So God's kind of a dick, but God doesn't care about AB. So that's not the excuse that you can use, So when people center their religion in order to fuel their hatred for women who do choose to get ABs, where does it come from? Because it's not the Bible. It's not their religion. In fact, Islam, Judaism, they encourage you to get ABs if you need to. Judaism says that if the woman's life is in danger, you must put her life first. So I mean, it's insane that religion can't really be the reason, even though it's religious Christian organizations like the Heritage Foundation that really try to stem up this hatred around it, or this politicalization around it, especially like in the late 1970s and stuff. But that's a conversation for another day. All I'm saying is that the pillar of religion leads into the pillar of this idea of America as a land that is going to be good for unborn babies, and the fact that we elected somebody who's ushering in this new Project 2025, where we're definitely going to get a federal, AB ban at some point soon. It all goes hand in hand. It all goes hand in hand. So that's one of the things where
I'm just glad that I got a hysterectomy before I had to worry about it.
Hey, Angie. No, that's always good. So yeah, if anybody else has thoughts, books, if you have any thoughts on, like, again, what you think the world would look like if we didn't hate women, if we didn't hate gay people, if we didn't hate trans people, if we didn't hate butt stuff. I mean, God, I swear, if more men would just be open to that.
I think we would see the world run by women. I mean, I truly believe that women are the better leaders.
Mommy.
Books, we need to have a little mommy daycare.
I swear, mine are going to be going to bed soon, so. But yeah, I mean, I think that historically we can look at evidence as women being better leaders. And just in everyday life, I mean, quite honestly, I think that the majority of the time women are running their households.
Yeah, and family
Case in point, right?
And family is the cornerstone of all society. Like societies, nations are built on families. That's the reason why when we look at Black culture and the Black nation, it's anti-family, and that's the reason why we don't see a larger, more cohesive, pervasive Black nationalist movement. It's been the demolition of all of our movements has been our anti-family, our anti-woman, the misogyny in the Black community has created weak family lines, weak family structures, and that has been the reason for weak communities and, like I said, the dissolution of Black nationalism as a actual national movement.
Well,
It's
that's also very, that's baked in to what it is to have a family in America. I mean, like, where do racists come from? Where do misogynists come from? Typically, especially with children being predominantly raised by women, then where do racists come from? If not man-centered mothers, if not equally as misogynist as the worst dude Andrew Tate guy mothers. I mean, think about it. Even, I know we keep going back to the AB thing. I just think it marries everything so well, with the religion aspect and the American aspect. But like, why are people upset about people getting ABs? It has shit to do with the fact that they care about life. They don't. If they did, of course, we'd see that they would care about Head Start programs or SNAP or whatever. We know they don't care about life. So why is it when you scratch it and pick it, it's almost always that they don't like that women are spreading their legs. They hate women. You don't want them to
because
have
it's a
pleasure.
power dynamic. When women are able to control their reproduction, they are able to control the means of production. This literally makes women the CEOs of childbirth. It literally makes the women, it puts women in the control of whether or not children come into the earth and into the planet. Thank you, Angie. And I think that's the thing that makes people that really threatens the fabric of the patriarchy, is if we allow this in any level of women's lives, any level of having autonomy, it threatens the whole entire premise that that the patriarchy is built on. That's why they'll use religious indoctrination. I can tell you right now, I got one kid that I had just because I believed in Jesus. Like, if I had stopped believing in Jesus a few years ago, there's definitely one of these kids I wouldn't have. And so it goes to show that I definitely would be a mom of 2 instead of 3. And that's, I love my child. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
being in control of my life, my autonomy, like the things that I would need to do in those years to progress as a woman, to make sure that I would be able to retire at a decent age. All of those things are impacted and affected by my choice to be a mother. And I'm just saying, I probably delayed my own retirement by 10 years, having a child 10 years later. So with that being said, yeah, but like I said, it was religious indoctrination that really guided that decision more than my personal autonomy. And that's where I'm saying that decentering men and decentering religion and the things that come along with that are a big part of being autonomous. You can't truly say that you are making decisions. This is a free country and this is free will. Like, even their God wanted them to have free will. You can't say this is free will when you're making decisions under the autonomy of someone else.
Absolutely. Or taking away, or decisions that affect the autonomy of someone else. Exactly. Angie said she thought she was too old to have children, but her doctor told her she wasn't. Oh,
Angie, listen, ain't nothing but a clip and a snip. I'm just saying. Me personally, I would do it before the Handmaid's Tale starts. But I mean, yeah.
But to that point, my sister-in-law doesn't want kids, never wanted kids, and she's from the UK as well, and she said that even here, it's just something about doctors wanting to wait until you are too old before it matters, or for you to have your husband, your future, some man who doesn't even exist yet, input on what you do with your reproductive system. So she found it really hard to find a doctor who would what the heck? Are you okay? Yeah, but she found it really hard to find a doctor who would do a tubal ligation for her. And it's even worse. She said she could, it's just that she would have to go private for that. But in America, it's damn near impossible to find a doctor who will actually help you actually control your reproduction. And so it's just not fair. It's just not fair because, again, the hatred for AB is because you're spreading your legs, when over 60% or something between 35 and 60% of ABs are done because of failed contraception. So people tried to be safe. It's, I think, something like 65% of all people who get ABs are already mothers. So it's not like they are, don't want to start a family, and so it's almost just crazy to me that they come up with all these excuses.
She said, and Brittany, I'm so glad to have you here, honey. You've been giving such great commentary. She said you have to ask the judge if you can have an AB or if you're unmarried or under 25 in Ohio. And that's in 2025. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy work. My daughter,
She
who
says
is
she's just celibate. She's just gonna stay celibate.
my daughter, who is 31, just got her tubes tied and only asked her if she was sure. That's
That's wonderful to hear. That's wonderful.
And if you have to have your husband to sign for it. Yeah, I bet you do. That's why I said all these people that were shaming single moms, and now we watching them up in Congress fighting with their husbands. I said, listen, it's upside down backwards day. But that is one of the trappings of the patriarchy, is that it promises you protection and power, but it's in exchange for your freedom and your autonomy.
Ooh, and who does that sound like? Ukraine. Oh, just take away your nukes. We'll defend you. Don't worry. Give up your nukes. We got you, Ukraine.
You came off mute. Did you have something you wanted to add to that book?
Yeah, I was on a live yesterday, and it was a bunch of men talking about and debating, like both liberal and conservative, debating on their concern for the low fertility rates in the country. And okay. I think that, like, they're, like, coming from a woman's perspective, it's hard for them to even think of a woman's perspective, because they were talking about different ideas to make people want to have kids. And the liberal aspect was like, oh, if we just make things more affordable, more accessible, people will start having kids again. And the conservative side was, oh, like, if we get the women back in the kitchen and, like, have their ability to stay home, like, and, take care of the house, and then we'll have, we'll have increased birth rates. And I was like, none of that is true. Because if you look at every other country who is economically developed, and they're all experiencing decreased fertility rates, and even in many countries that are offering what we look at as extreme measures to boost their fertility rates, which is like very long maternity leave, paying people to have kids, all of these things that they were talking about, none of it works. Because in an economically developed country, when you have women being able to make their own decisions, many women just don't want to have kids. Mm-hmm. They just don't. And my question was, why is that so wrong?
Exactly.
Like, why is it a bad thing to have less people born? Like, I get that there's concerns for, like, the elderly and things, but it's like, we have all the resources that we need to solve those problems without having more children.
Well, see, that's where the capitalism piece comes in, because the only way to resource the country is to take that wealth from those 5 men that have it. And that's the reason why they would rather act like we're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube and find everybody else, like they are the king of get somebody else to do it. So we've got to saddle young people with old people's debt in order to make sure that Elon Musk can have generational wealth for the next 11 generations of family, and that's for them all to be rich and never want for anything a day in their life.
Plus, we need workers. We need military people. We need, and that's also why you want to not only force people to have kids, but you want to take away the Department of Education. You want to make it more difficult for people to educate themselves.
And be upwardly mobile.
Sorry, what now?
I said, and be upwardly mobile, because we need the majority
Yeah.
of the population to make $12.50 an hour. So
Exactly, and where we're from is like 50 out of 50 on the whole economic mobility scale. So I mean, I think we've seen it firsthand how devastating it can be for the long term for a whole community.
Yeah.
So it's nuts. But yeah, let's move into our fourth pillar, because I still want to again get to where we can tackle this big boss of final boss of the patriarchy. So let's chat a little bit about, unless anybody has any more thoughts on what they think the world would look like without, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and whatnot.
Any of the other pillars that we've already covered, if anybody wanted to go back over their thoughts on religion or their thoughts on, what was the one we had before that?
Religion, America, like the capitalism, patriotism, nationalism.
Yep. If there are any thoughts about that, the doors of the church are now open.
Yes, the library is open. Hi, Polly.
That's my good buddy, one of my OG. Listen, I done had a lot of people fall away from me since we started this journey together, but Polly is one of the OGs. So.
You were talking. We're moving into like the fourth pillar of whiteness, of race, and honestly, it's funny that you were telling me about your evolution in, I guess, your personal philosophy around decentering men and how that has changed according to your views on race. As you,
the Hotep's had me. The Hotep's had me in the chokehold for a minute with the pro-blackness and Black Power. Like they had me on it, where I was just like, my whole identity comes from being black. If it's a black man in the streets, if it's a black man in the streets who's being unfairly, treated by the police, that's my personal problem, because it's not like he should be left out there powerless. I should march. I should demand his fair treatment, even if he doesn't demand mine.
That's so deep. It's funny because I've been doing, since President Trump deemed March as YT History Month. I'm running with it, and I'm taking every day to post a new daily topic around YT history.
Listen, if y'all have not been on Sophie's YT History Month post, oh my God, subscribe, support, because these should really be viral. I'm going to be honest, when you're a small content creator, it's hard to get that momentum behind you, because TikTok is a fascist machine. But when I say, listen, turn your notifications on, because every day I'm just sitting in there like, oh, MG. And y'all know I had my series White Fights, where I would talk about all the ways that YT people turn on each other and themselves, and they don't even need black people or immigrants or other nationalities around to act out and act a fool. And her series has been proving my point.
Thank you.
I'm following. No, I was just going to say I'm following her now. And wait, what is this? March is YT History Month? I thought it was Women's History Month.
It is Women's History, or it was Women's History Month. But
did he really do this? No, did I miss this?
No.
Oh,
honestly,
girl,
if you follow me, it'll make sense.
Okay.
I don't mean to be like a
no,
troll.
it's all good. No, it's fine. I'm following you now. Okay.
Just so people know, then I am trolling quite a bit with this, but I play a kind of a character because I like to pass laws, and so I'm also a Republican congresswoman for a fake, district in North Carolina. And so
Oh God, I
I've
love
passed
this.
laws. I've passed laws like the right to bear blanks, where all men in America have to get a vasectomy because we want to eliminate abortions, right? So all men in America have to get a vasectomy. I just passed again a law where a bill that President Trump signed for YT History Month in March. And I just did one recently. I can't even remember what it was for, but it's just kind of my way to kind of poke the bear a little bit. But so in this Republican Congresswoman's bill passing with the YT History Month, I've been posting every day a point about YT history. And so the very first day was about where whiteness even comes from. And the fact that literally in the late 17th century, the late 1600s, I'm so sorry, Brittany. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm trolling so hard. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. I am not the only one.
But honestly, the sad thing to me is that would it surprise you if he did? Like, is it that much of a shock that that's believable?
No, but I always do it in July. But no, I got you.
Oh
It's
yes,
fine.
absolutely. But that's for a good reason, because I know we all celebrate Independence Day.
We gotta do it early in the year because we don't know what this summer is gonna bring. I know this is a side note. Polly's been following me for a long time. And she knows that I do some economic forecasting stuff from time to time. Polly, the summer
Ma'am.
is gonna be wild. Okay, the summer is gonna. We
Oh,
might none of us even be on here come this summer. So
oh, good Lord. Okay.
Nice. But yeah, I'm just saying, basically, like, when it comes to whiteness, it's all made up. Like, there's literally no genetic marker for race. So race, black, white, doesn't exist. So essentially, when Bacon's Rebellion happened in the late 1600s, that's the biggest thing that upset the wealthy whites in America. It let them know that, oh wow, the poors and the black people, they have way more in common with each other than they do with us. So in order to basically get them to be on their side as a voting bloc, they started to demonize black people as being, rapists and trying to
Oh
steal
yeah.
their wealthy women and all that. Like concerted propaganda campaigns.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then
I
of
read
course,
books about that.
oh
Our
yeah,
lives.
absolutely,
It's just yeah. Um,
absolutely.
it, I was just thinking about something that you just said when you were
No, go for
talking
it.
about that. I was rearranging the books on my bookshelves today. I don't know why I choose to do that. It's such a task, but I came across this book I hadn't picked up in a minute, and it's called "And Don't Call Me Racist." And
Mm.
it's a little book.
Fascinating.
But what it is it's got all these things that were said about us, you know, starting back. Oh yeah, it's a great little book. Starting back
Mm.
in
Yeah.
1619 and all and moving forward and all the stuff
Yeah.
that the legislate all those people said and all sorts of stuff. It's really an interesting little book.
And
And
say
since
the title one more time.
and don't call me racist.
I love that.
It's a treasury of quotes from the past, present, and future of the color line in America. And since it is YT History Month, I am going to join you and I will be making videos reading from this book. Thank you.
Amazing.
and
Oh,
thus
yeah.
a movement was born because I think that their failure to remember their history is a bigger problem for us than because I think everyone else is way more versed on their history than they are, and I think that's what's creating part of the issue. But I will say
Yes.
that like when you were talking about that commonality, race is being weaponized all the way across the board as a system of national identity, and it is being used to promote the interest of men. And that's why I love the fact that coming to the point of race, like when we sat down, me and Sophie, and we picked the pillars, we were like, but there's this and there's that and there's this, but there was no other race. There was no other pillar in my opinion
And in mine.
right, that was more important. Hey, Red, as to why we needed to decenter men, because race was being used to fulfill the destiny and the purpose and the principle of all men. You know, men use racial identity in order to get their agendas taken care of and taken place of. And this is where we see the overlapping of the patriarchy and men's agendas across racial lines. I said it when we first started the live on co-host. I said, I really believe that all men are working together to promote white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They just,
And
some of them just don't know it, but yeah, I agree.
exactly. Because it's one of the things that we were saying as well, because it's so baked in. It's integral in the system. So you can't recognize the water you're swimming in until you step out. Somebody asked the name of the book again. It is "And Don't Call Me Racist." And had a couple of really so sorry. Dreamy, thanks for coming. She said that is that where the from at least some poor people say, at least I'm not black. That's like exactly what that is.
And a lot
It
of poor
talks
people
about,
think that they are black. When I talk to white people about the
I'll
black
tell you in
white,
a
the
minute.
first thing they want to say is, "I don't experience privilege. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my
It's the
mouth."
first thing they say.
Yeah,
First
it's
thing
got a
they say.
lot of different
Polly, what'd you
things. Like
say?
I said, it's got a lot of different things in there like that. So like it's got a section where it says, if you think you don't see color, go to this page. Those types of things. So it's not like a serious history book, right? But it compiles a whole bunch of history together.
I
Um,
like that.
yeah, I think so. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
And to
Nice.
my decentering men piece, I think we have to recognize that a lot of the blackness, the black identity that we derive our power and identity and perspectives from, is also a machination of whiteness. Because without whiteness being defined for them, like you said, there was class consciousness amongst black people.
Mm-hmm.
Whiteness being defined as a socioeconomic class has allowed some black people to feel like black men, let's just go ahead and call them who they are, to feel like they can transcend blackness through privilege. Like O.J. Simpson, for instance, saying, "I'm not black, I'm O.J." is the perfect example of why this concept of whiteness has even defined for us what blackness is expected to be. And we have to, as black women, we have to decenter race as well. We can't ask white people to do it and then hold on to the same exact construct that created our identity in the first place as well.
Exactly. So
Which,
sorry.
I mean, I hate to say it, but wrapped up in... Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go
what's
ahead.
up?
Go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I was just
No,
reading
go
some.
ahead.
Yeah, you were reading
Go
the
ahead.
comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Brittany said. I'm so sorry. Brittany said that she heard a long time ago that we're all just different shades of wheat. There is no race but the human race. Again, that's biologically, genetically true as well. Sorry.
We have to realize that it was created to dissolve class consciousness, like what you said about Bacon's Rebellion.
And also just think about it. If we looked at actual ethnicity, how quickly would Italians become the minority, or would Irish people become the minority, or would German people become the minority in America? You have to
Don't say
have.
that in front of them; they're gonna get mad at you.
But that's what I think. We've been asking the question with each pillar of let's see. The question is, what are some everyday actions that individuals can take to actively decenter this pillar? And so I think that's one of the actions that, all races, not just white people, need to take, is understanding that race is a construct. It's like Brittany says, we're all human. Dreamy says she's going to have a whole library by the time this is done. And speaking of which, please follow me. I really hate to plug myself, but this the YT History Month post every single day. I have a really strong book recommendation related to the topic. And then for Women's Day on the 8th, so day 8, it's like the whole thing is just the whole basically book list. So definitely check out the YT History Month post. And hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Good evening,
I,
all.
I'm always
Yeah,
buying
what are your
books. Go
thoughts?
ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Chris.
Good evening, all. Sorry it took me a while to join, Sophie.
That's okay. Hi.
Great post, and it's interesting what you said before. What would the world would look like without race? Because I think in around 12,000 years or so, the average human, well, since we're going to be so globalized, there's going to be one skin tone throughout the world, and it's hard to explain. It's kind of yellowish, it's kind of brownish, bigger eyes, etc.
You know what's so wild though is I think it still behooves us to decenter race. Despite that, you're right. Like I mean, I'm doing my part. I'm clearly doing my part, right? I've said before.
In the race.
Say what?
I said, not Sophie in here whiting in the race.
I'm blacking in the race, girl. That's what I'm trying to do. Because if the revolution comes, right? But no, for real though, like I feel like it's still valuable to decenter race because I mean if we all are the same skin tone, there's still variations in skin tone. So you look at completely homogenous societies like India. There's places in Asia with like the Hmong people where there's gradation in their colors. Brazil, South America, Cuba, Haiti.
I was about to say generations later, there's still going to be dark people popping out, and if they've got a willingness to create a power structure over those people, it's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I want to make sure I say this right quick before I come back down, Polly and some of y'all. Because I know my people, they looking at me like, bitch, what is you up here saying? But the honest to goodness truth is that we, even as Black women, are going to have to decenter our race because it exists as a limitation of our power. If it existed as an extension of power, the way we have been programmed and thought to believe that it would, like if Blackness and the book that Sophie had, I don't know if you got it where you can pull it up, but it says all the women are white and all the blacks are male. The Blackness has served as a defeminization of women. It has made our identity counterproductive and counterintuitive to who and what we really are supposed to be in the earth. Like the same way that capitalism and white supremacy has been I'm looking for a word I can't find, but the way it has been a defilement of the natural order of things is the same, because we know more people are brown than they are white. So to try to line ourselves up with this ideal of what one small group of people should be is the same thing you see in desirability politics, that we want 80% of the women to look like 20% of the women. So this unnatural reversal of the natural things is present in Blackness. Like we have to recognize that Blackness is like those genetically modified seeds that can't produce after themselves because it takes away the feminization of women. So like this is one of the good books that I always recommend, where it says all the women are white, all the blacks are men, but some of us are brave. And that's what Black women are going to have to understand, is that we don't have the same power in our femininity because we're Black. And we don't have the same power in our Blackness because we're women. And so we are going to have to deconstruct and debunk Blackness as well, as far as being Black women, if we expect to be able to make the changes that only we are able to identify and recognize because of our intersectionality.
Oh, honey, thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
That is so sweet. That is so sweet. I gotta say, like, because I've been doing a lot of this, I say more racial work in with my like Call a Liberal nightly show. And what's so funny is that's how people, of course, they see you at first, is by your race. And so I'll get these calls from people, and the first words out of their mouth is N-word, 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 you know. And Wireless actually saw a video I did. It was like a little compilation of all that. And but once you just let people kind of get it out of their system, and like, okay, you good? Okay, what was your question? Like, are you done? You know, then we actually end up moving into some really, I think, powerful conversations. So it's just wild to me that the second you can move past, you know, race and help other people move past your race, it just opens the door for, I think, them to see you more as a human being. I think that's,
Disagree.
ooh, please do tell. Please do tell.
No, it's okay. I mean, I've seen those types. I'm old. Let me just say that first of all. Okay. So everything I say is because I'm old.
Okay.
Um, Wireless knows this, that I'm old. But
You're fine.
see, I think that yeah, I've had people, I've seen the people that do that, they do the N word, and then quote unquote, you move on and have whatever the conversation is. But the reality of the situation is that they feel that they have the right to actually do something like that, is
Mm-hmm.
their inability to allow us to decenter race. And I don't have the patience for individuals like that, period. And they're really not worth my time. So
Now let me
Well,
tell
I, it's an insult. It is an insult. And I
it,
understand
it
about
is
the
an insult.
decentering race, but the problem is that the United States of America was built on race.
Yep.
And again, I'm old. Remember that. I'm old. I'm old.
you're
And
fine.
and and my experiences are vastly different,
Yep.
only because of my age, right? Now I'm willing to decenter. If you all want to decenter, we can decenter. But the problem is America is not going to decenter.
Be center with us.
Individual people,
Right.
individual people will decenter, but I don't see the nation decentering because it is so ingrained, just like patriotism is so
Mm-hmm.
ingrained. I mean, I'd love to see it before I leave the earth, but you got 20 years and then I probably won't be here anymore. So you got 20 years to show me something.
No, that's
Sorry.
fine. Well, Wireless, before you say what you're gonna say, I absolutely agree. And one of the things that Wireless and I both agree on, but maybe take different tacks too, is that we don't do what we do for that caller, for that guest. We do it for the people who are listening in. So I don't think for a second that I've actually suddenly changed that person's heart. I think they just got caught, and you know how if you like if you smack a bully back, you know, or if you kill somebody with kindness, you know, whatever the case is, again it's more of a disruption method for me to then again engage in conversation that hopefully my viewers can see, you know, how what a racist really looks like, what a racist really is. It's not a person in a Ku Klux Klan, it's a person hiding behind a keyboard, you know, that's just a young kid, it's just an idiot, you know, it's somebody who is once you talk to them and you see after 5 minutes that they're really quite dumb, you know, like it's everything I do, you know, that when it comes to those types of interactions, in particular, it's not at all for that person. So I mean, Wireless, you can say what you were going to say, but I don't want you to think that I'm naive to
No, no,
that
no. I
at
don't
all.
think that you are because you wouldn't be here with wireless if you were. So I'm not, I have no
Oh,
doubt. I
And
just
I
know
want
that
you.
I'm in a free enough space where I can say something when I
Yes, you
feel it. That's
can.
oh,
all.
for
And
sure.
I'm actually glad we're friends, Chris. Yeah, that's beautiful. Listen, my friends are the best.
This is
I will say
amazing. Yeah.
this. I will say this. I love engaging with them, and I'm actually so glad you said this because when me and Sophie were having a conversation about doing this Decenter Whiteness, Decenter Man live, where we were going to kind of tag team what we saw the issue as, this right here was the hardest pillar for the two of us to figure out, was the race pillar, because she
Yeah.
actually felt a lot like you do, where it was like we kind of combat whiteness with this blackness, and how I was able to challenge, like I'm going to challenge you, that thought and that belief is that you and we're a little bit older, like even I'm older than Sophie. And we have seen, like you said, what YT supremacy has done. We have seen the way that Black communities had no other alternative but to rally together with each other in order to fight for our own liberation and just survival in some instances. However, let's now look at what this Black solidarity has done, because I think so often when we don't want to decenter race as Black people, it is a defense mechanism for what whiteness has done. And that defense mechanism has created a trauma bond, because now we got to be honest and say, if our reaction as Black women to white supremacy and tyranny and terror has been Black nationalism, has been our racial identity, then what is our answer as Black women for the CRAC epidemic in our own community?
Mm-hmm.
What has been our answer for those same Black men who use Black Power initiatives and Black Power movements to victimize women and children?
Mm-hmm.
How do we justify the Children's March? The Children's March in Montgomery, sorry, you know what I'm trying to say, Montgomery, Alabama. Where was that?
Yeah,
I remember. I
You know
remember.
what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. How do we justify sending our children out to
Right.
inevitably get what would be rights for
Out
Black
of school, and
What-
riling
what-
them
what-
up to want to do that.
What was going to inevitably be rights for Black men who never took that liberation that we fought shoulder to shoulder with them for, to go back and resource their community? And that's the issue. The issue is not that we're trying to pull ourselves away from our race in order to be superior to it. It's understanding that it's a limitation to what Black women are able to accomplish and do when they are not tethered to their Black identity, which ends up being more misogynistic, ends up being more of a reason to actually decenter men. Because Black men, if we're honest, are on white men's Christian nationalist supremacist agenda. More often than not, we have linked ourselves to a movement that has actually deregulated and de-resourced our community. I know that in a word, but you understood what I was saying.
I know where you're going.
sure.
Yeah, but see, the reason that I mean, yes, I hear you, of course. The reason that Black men, if we're going to use Black men, are are becoming or have always really been a part of white what is patriarchy, is because they were that's all they know. That's all they know. And that's what happened with the denigration of the race. That's what happens when you take a population from everything they know and they have nothing. No, nothing. They don't even have someone from their, somebody that they know that they're with. And you are raising them to be, I hate to say this, little YT people. I just finished reading that Indigenous history book, and that was of course, we know that's what they did with the school. So it's the same thing. It's all about turning uh, those of us of color into little white people.
But
That's the mission.
but when you decenter men and we decenter what is actually their interest, like, because everything that you said about their lacks in ties to community and all those different things is a reason for them to destroy their own community. What does that mean?
I'm sorry, what? Say it again. I missed it.
Like when you say
I'm
they're
gonna pop
No,
her
no,
down.
you're
I'll be
fine.
right back.
No, you're fine with her.
Yes,
You're
sir.
fine with her. Okay, well, all right, go ahead.
No, I can hear. I can
when
hear.
we talk about
Okay.
their reasons for destroying their own community being a lack of ties to the community, which is causing them to destroy community, like when we decenter them. Thank you guys for helping Sophie reach her live goal. I really appreciate it. And the likes. And the likes. Let's try to get the 10K likes so we can keep getting the live pushed out. I know some of y'all been in here typing comments. Use them thumbs to tap. Look, we bumping gums and tapping thumbs. Let's get these likes up.
It's
But
so fun.
that's the only thing I'm saying, is that ultimately the Black plight is centered around the plight of the Black man, not the Black woman and child.
Oh, I hear you. Okay.
The Black man's oppressor has been the white man, but the Black woman's oppressor has been the Black man.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, we're on the same page with that, 100%.
So that's my only
100%.
thing. We have to decenter men in order to even understand what the black consciousness is, because the black consciousness has been so,
Oh,
it
okay.
has been, you see what I'm saying? It has been
Yeah.
so
I
commandeered by
was
the
separating the
black
two.
man's, yeah, the black man's plight. When, let's be honest, like I said, the patriarchy, the misogyny, the sexism, the chauvinism within the black race,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, is more pervasive than it is in the dominant culture.
Oh, I agree 100%. And it's not the dominant culture, it's in that other culture.
That
We're going to
other,
stop saying,
exactly.
we're going to come up with something else besides the dominant culture.
Well, you know, I don't say white
I know.
supremacy anymore. I say white hegemony, because that's what it is. It's a system of
Ah,
them believing they're dominant. So, okay.
I can go with that. Hold on. Let me write that down.
Look at my vegetables. Oh, I don't know if y'all can see it. My fruit. No, you
We
can't see it.
see. I was talking to some women yesterday. We were reading about Dovey. What's her name? Here she is. Um, Dovey Johnson. And we were talking about how we have to change the language that we use, right? Um, Instead of saying the dominant culture, we need to come up with something else because um, they are not dominant.
Yeah.
That makes me feel subordinate, and I am not subordinate.
I
So,
feel the same way. And we have to do this not just for race, but we also have to do it for gender. We also have to
yeah. Oh,
understand
I
that
agree.
patriarchy, and the language we're using around the patriarchy is very problematic as well. But I did
Yeah,
want
it
to open
is.
up to see if Chris and Books, because I know y'all have a
Oh, I'm
different,
sorry.
if you wanted to provide some context to it as well.
Don't worry about it. Just appreciate listening to all of you. Uh, you all teach me so much. I don't. To me, a lot of YT culture is stolen from you lot, like the rock and roll. Go through the line like dancing. So much of it is we took, and it's not even ours. If that makes sense.
It does,
Like
and I understand where you're coming from. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, not to worry. I started talking and don't. It's kind of like music, and like not just rock and roll music, but things like disco, which morphed into house music after the fall of disco.
Mm-hmm.
Like us YTs don't have culture. It's all taken. It's all pillaged.
Which wouldn't be a bad thing if we had the equity of being able to say, like, we don't have to commandeer someone else's culture. We can have a culture of inclusivity and diversity and equity that allows for us to develop organically together as a group of people. It's just like the difference between genetically modified fruits and vegetables versus cross-pollinated fruits and vegetables. So, certain things can happen in nature that are unexpected or unanticipated, but it's been, and this is where I always go back to decentering men as being the central thing. It's been this unnatural engineering of power and control that keeps keeps things from developing organically and people being able to benefit mutually from the combinations and that diversity can make. If we were to think of everything that Sophie's been saying about the pillars, if we were to take every last one of those pillars down, there's absolutely no way that white supremacy could stand. I think I'm kind of at my closing point, so this would be my closing if I was to say it. Is that
Okay.
at the end of the day, when we hold on to race, we give power to patriarchy. When we hold on to religion, we give power to patriarchy. When we hold on to gender and heteronormativity, we give power to patriarchy. Like all roads, it's like patriarchy is like Oz. Like being male centered is like Oz, and all the roads lead to Oz. And at the end of the day, the people who are the most afraid of people becoming class conscious, meaning that woman is no longer a social class, we actually humanize these things. Blacks are no longer a racial class, but they're actually human beings. That is when you start to realize that the people who are most interested in holding on to power and control need you to see these other people as non-people, as non-entities. And that
Right.
has been the basis for all of the isms they have created and basically given power to 7 men. I don't know if y'all know this. but all 7 of them are men. And they have the power to completely bankrupt America as a country. That is why our government does what they do. So that was it. Sophie, did you want to come back in and get on like what the world would look like without gender? Because I'm telling you, if we don't decenter men, baby, this whole thing, first of all, the planet's going to implode. Let's just start there.
Oh, no,
Okay.
you're right. You're 100% correct.
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
they are doing right now with the agricultural colonization is enough to
My
end
God.
as a group of people. So,
Oh my god. I've like I said earlier, I've worked in so many DEI spaces, and so a lot of people think DEI is just affirmative action for some reason, but it's also training programs and courses and working on your implicit bias. So of course I've done all these trainings, but the one that was the most powerful for me. So sorry, y'all. But the one that was the most powerful for me was when I was in a very diverse group of people. And so we were able to ask this question of everyone. We were like, okay, well, what do you like the most about being Black, And so I was like, oh man, I like our food, our music, our swagger, our community. There was an Asian woman in the group. Sorry. Here, baby, here, baby, here, baby, here, baby. Here, baby. So sorry. There was an Asian woman in the group. So, what do you like the most about being Asian? And she was like, oh, our food, our community, our culture. There was a Hispanic woman. Oh, what do you like about being Hispanic? Oh, I love the food, our music, our community, et cetera, et cetera. And so then the white people in the group, what do you like about being white? And they were like, oh, well, we get the benefit of the doubt. We definitely have privilege. We're believed when we say something. We're definitely first in line, that kind of thing. And so the person was like, so what exactly is white culture? Like, what does that mean then to be white? And how sad is it that you don't have like a food of your own that you can point to, or a music of your own that you can point to, or a community of your own that you can, feel part of. And so they were like, well, if you think about it though, Italians have food, Germans have music and beer fest, and French people, German, like all Polish people, there is that same level of cultural and the ability to have an appreciation for your culture, if you would just relinquish the white piece of it, and so I just thought that was so incredibly powerful for me. So that to me is my request, or what I hope people get out of this whole conversation, is that it is possible to
crazy. Can
decenter
I
your white.
interrupt you for 1 second? What I think is so crazy is
Yeah.
they went right to nationalism. Like Italians have Black people in their country, Germans have Black people in their country, French people have Black people in their country.
Portuguese people
And
have,
so
exactly.
the fact that they equate their race with their nationality, they went straight to nationalism to find some
They
culture.
sure did.
Great. I find that quite interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it. So that's I guess my role to attack the final boss. But um what does anybody else have any thoughts on, I guess, again, like what they think the world would look like without gender, if we were to decenter whiteness, men, religion, sexuality? What's the
Nirvana.
utopia?
Decentering us men would probably be the best thing you could ever do, because statistics will back this up. The happiest demographic is single women without children. That's from the London School of Economics, Paul Dawn. You're so much better without us. Like, I'm not just saying this. I truly believe that if you decenter us, you wouldn't have. I'm sorry, but if you unalived us, the male population, you wouldn't have. You wouldn't have the problems. And to go, Brittany, I hope I'm saying your name right, Brittany, down in the comment section. It would be peaceful, because us men will freaking smarass you. I'm purposely butchering the word. I'm not sure if you could say on TikTok, but smarass you for simply existing. like us men will freaking cause harm for the sake of causing harm, and at the end of the day, it's all of us men until it's none of us men. Every single one of us. Not all of us men are rapists. Not all of us men have essayed a woman, but every single one of us men have made a woman or femme-presenting person feel uncomfortable in our lives. Every single one of us are complicit in upholding the patriarchy.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Well said, Chris. Thank you.
I think for me, just like being able to attend platforms like this has really, like, not only opened my eyes to other people's point of views that I would never have been able to come across, but also like helped me immensely. I mean, I've learned so much from Black women on here about like empowering myself, and a lot of like the culture and like feminism, and then talking about like intersectionality. I never even knew what that was before. And to be able to take that and not only help myself, but like look forward to helping my daughter, looking forward to teaching my son different ways, and hopefully truly experiencing a change in our communities and teaching other people and including ourselves to continuously learn about other people and to really listen, like not just over talk, but to truly listen to other people's point of views and what they would like to see.
That's a very good point. Very well said. And I think
I'll say this one thing too as well, because I had like a comment that went viral. I hate it when comments go viral. That's the most irritating thing, to like have people constantly liking your comment. You're thinking they're likes and they're just comment likes. But it was on a post where this therapist was saying how, people think that sending misogynistic men to therapy can help them. And they were saying like, misogyny is not something that can be helped in personal therapy because it's a societal problem, because men go out into society and they're rewarded for being misogynist. And so to what Chris was saying, I think, I can't go that far yet, but I think that by starting to decenter men, it actually makes the world safer for other men as well. Like, this is an important step that we as women have to take, because we are 50 to 51, and in some age brackets, 52% of the population. The largest group of oppressed, marginalized people are women. Like, out of slaves, like out of this country, Black people make up 12, 13%, depending on the reporting, baby, because, some people don't report as Black. But, you're talking about objectifying and exploiting 13% of the population, as opposed to 51% of our workforce is women. There are more women in the workforce than men. So if you can get women doing unpaid emotional labor and if you can get women raising kids and taking care of the elderly and champion LGBTQIA plus and the disabled and all this stuff, then you can keep women busy while men are running and ruining the world. And so I say that to say that we have to recognize that decentering men makes the world safer for women, children, elderly, but also other men. If men went out and started wars and they came back to societies that said, hey, you can no longer live here with us, you can no longer socialize with us, you can't buy and trade with us, you know what I'm saying, your money is no good here, you know what I'm saying, if we had women that really stood on that business, they said, I'm not going to be taking pictures with Chris Brown because Chris Brown beats women. They said, you know what, we're not going to be, because we've been looking for men to do it, for men to police other men, for men to decenter men, and they're not going to be able to do it. We've been looking to whites to decenter whiteness. They're not going to be able to do it. So it's going to take groups of people outside the margins of what we consider to be what we said, which is the patriarchy, which is white, male, Christian, nationalism, heteronormativity. Like, these are going to be everybody that falls outside the lines of that being the default setting in this country are going to have to create class consciousness of understanding that we are all victims of this system, as long as we are not liberating each other from it. And at the end of the day, if you pull it like a sweater, and it's the Undone Sweater song by Weezer. Let Chris go down. Kristen Books on the time. Listen, if you want to destroy my sweater,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
thread as I walk away, as I
As I
walk
walk
away.
away.
And I have really come to find that the one thread that threatens to completely destroy the sweater, like people are like, we got to boycott this, we got to protest this, we got to, no, no, no. If you really want the simplified version of how we get this thing done, it's decenter men. Like I have tried. She can tell you, I've been working on my sociology master's for 20 years. And I for every other cause, reason, excuse, course of action, and baby, all roads led to Oz. All roads led to decentering men. So that's all I got for the live. If anybody else got anything, that's gonna be my time.
No, honestly, that's awesome. I will say, Polly, since you're our last guest who hasn't kind of given a closing, I want to tell you, like, I think this is where I think this is where we start. You know, it might not, it might take that 20 years you're talking about. It might be when she's your age. You know, it might be her kids that finally get there, but we don't even start down that yellow brick road
Oh,
until
I
we
understand. No,
descend.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree
So,
100%.
but there's
And
there's still the hope
I'm with
there.
it. It's
Yeah.
fine. I'm with it. It's I mean, I've been with all the great changes that have happened in this nation, so sure, I'll be with this one as well.
But what it like considering that though, and I guess considering this current backsliding, to say the least, like, are you okay? Like, how do you feel? Because I feel like I don't know. Like I know what I've seen. I'm 42. I know what I've seen in my 42 years.
I
So
love I love you, Polly, and I want you to know, Polly, this you being an older, I ain't gonna get on your age. I'm 43, and she's 42, so we ain't young or nothing like that.
yeah,
But
no, not at all. But
being an
it's
older black woman, I can honestly say you are the person we're doing all of it for. Like you are the most marginalized. You experience no privilege from being young, from being black, from being a woman. And so it's people like you more than anybody else that all of this is for. So just so you know.
absolutely. Yeah. So,
That's heartwarming. I think that I mean, I'm okay. The thing for me right now is I am reminding myself why I am a veteran. That's right now I'm dealing with that. The whole, yes, I served this country for 18 years, so there's that. But all the marches, all the demonstrations, I mean, I never thought that at 65, well, I'll be 66 this year. Jesus. Um, that I would see this again. I never thought I would see this again. My grandmother used to my grandmother and my mother would tell me my father and all of them would they would teach us on Saturdays because we had Saturday school for the black children, right? To supplement the education that we received when we were in parochial school or boarding school classes so that we knew real history. And I never thought that we would be in this situation again, and yet we are. We're in a situation where it is imperative that parents supplement the education of their children. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about other people. um, and we are in a situation where it is imperative that we have graphic novels that tell our history stories, to have young people read those things, um, and all of that. It is actually imperative that we decenter men, um, because I remember it feels as if in my lifetime we had done that to a certain degree. Now I don't know what happened because I men over the years, and I'm like, I don't know where they're going. I don't know where their heads are. I don't know what's happened. It was a whole different time. Um, and this is not, and I've heard other women talking about they don't use the language of decentering men, but that's if they had that language, that's what they would say. And I'm sitting back going, this is horrible that this is happening. to us at this time. I don't know where men went off the rails. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, and you
Um,
know what's funny? I'm so glad Polly, you bring so much depth and color and context to the conversation. This is why I always honor older Black women, the patriarchs, because y'all were the ones that, like you said, didn't have that language, but said, get your education, don't depend on a man. I think the Black community is unique in that it's been the one place where the decentered men experiment shows what happens to women when men are decentered. Like, we've never been able to center our community around our men. Even the one time we tried in the 50s and 60s, the FBI and the CIA came through and just deleted a generation of men. They were like, you know what?
yep.
No, I don't think so. And so we had to come back from that and thrive through that. And then we watched in the 90s, mass incarceration came in, and they say that welfare took about. Yeah, we've dispelled it several times, but either way, my point is, whether it was absence, whether they were absent or whether they were removed, we have consistently thrived under a subculture of decentering men. And so I think Black women, like when Book said that, like, I've learned so much from Black women about how to, have this confidence towards myself, is because we're one subset of women who have been able to see what can be accomplished when women are centered in a society. And as much as they try to say, oh, the men this and that because of single moms and this and that, these are the same women that are raising daughters that are the most educated people group in the country, that are raising daughters who are the largest group of new homeowners, business owners. So how are these same women that are raising all of their favorite people and icons and stuff? Ray Lewis and all them was raised by single moms, but they're trying to change the narrative. But the truth of the matter is, Black women have already decentered men. If we can manage to stay away from racism, like our own, I'm not calling it racism, but you know what I'm saying, that racial identity that pulls us back several steps to have to stand beside our men, I think we can actually be the example of the change and the leadership that this world needs, as long as we don't get caught up in nationalism and racism and capitalism and all the isms
Yes.
that have been
Yeah.
used to control the masses. Because
Right.
they did it with a record deal, we did it without one. They did it with
Exactly.
the deal, we did it without them. They did it with
Hmm.
the NBA, we did it without them. And so I think if we just continue to resist the things that didn't make us great in the first place, the things that they say we gonna make America great again, with all the things that did not contribute to the greatness of Black women. So I think we have this opportunity
Yep.
now to show the world what it could be if they resist all of that. But we can't hold on to any of it and still be the champions of what that looks like. I think.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Books.
All right, go ahead.
I think like from my point of view, I don't know if it's like just the cause of it or like a reaction to this, but I see a coincidence between what you were saying, Polly, with like what happened with men, like when and how and why. Like, I definitely see a coincidence with the reaction to women finally hitting that threshold where they have become more successful, when they have become the highest group and surpassing men in higher education, when there's studies coming out that are showing women are more successful in managing and investing in money, when they're more successful in being able to, when they're given the opportunities, they are more successful in like they're just more successful all around when they are given the opportunities. More are entering the military, more are attempting to enter into politics. And you're seeing more women, like I said earlier, leading churches. And just overall, the success of women has been a reactionary switch in men.
Thank you, Nora. That's true. That's true. I think it's also why, when we talk about all the isms, that's why we maybe even started with religion, because it's just that serious. It's just that serious. And also, again, like what they all stack into. So even though right now we're kind of in that final boss of decentering men and talking about gender, again, for those of you who came in late, especially, like we've talked about the four things that prop this all up, and that's religion, patriotism, having homophobia, transphobia, othering of different sexualities, and again, race. So what a rich conversation this has been, as I knew it would be. Hi, Dee. Hey, Dee. And so I want to.
Maybe.
Hey, Dee. I want to maybe go ahead and get us to a closing point, because we have kept wireless for far longer than as originally stated. So do you have any last?
I only decenter men between my office hours. I'm after my office hours, and now I gotta actually go center them in.
I gotta pay you some overtime, baby. Sorry. But and we'll definitely have to do this again. I mean, what a pleasure. Before I got you on, I was telling my audience, like, you're literally, if not the one of the smartest women I've ever met in my life.
Wow, that
You're,
means so much coming from you.
nah, I'm serious. Like, her takes on things, and just her integrity, it's just ridiculous that I was so privileged and lucky enough to have just grown up with her and had her in my life. Like I said, from the 9 and 2000s, I've known this beautiful woman. And so, I mean, I looked up to her. She's only a year older than me, but I've looked up to her my whole life. And so I'm just so proud of her and her successes. And what a treat it is that she's willing to reach back down the ladder to come and have this time with me and to share her space with me. So I really appreciate you. I hope you all, if you're here from my side of things, will follow the Wireless Woman. Follow our entire panel that popped on. This was kind of an impromptu panel, but it was perfect. I mean, we had such a diverse group of voices with such amazing insights. So thank you all for being our guests tonight. That was just wonderful. Yeah. Any final?
Thank you for being our host, Sophie. And like I said, we stand on the shoulders of each other, so I appreciate the accolades ever so much. But nothing I do matters if it isn't for women and people like you who are also in that lane with me and understanding it. Because I'm gonna tell you, everybody that came out with Decenter Men 10 years ago, we thought they were nuts. We thought they were crazy. They were telling us, and we was like, "Oh, these are bitter women," Because I tell everybody, all women come to Decenter Men through pick-meism. Like we was either religious or we was somewhere. We was up underneath a man, being like, "Oh," and so this is really what helps us to not feel alone and to feel like what we do matters. So thank you so much for hosting us.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we'll have to do this way more often. We're still in YT History Month, everybody. So make sure you follow so you can get my daily posts on a different facet of YT history every day. Go back and look at the full playlist. It's been some interesting stuff. Some of it's kind of harrowing, so buckle up or just skip it if you like.
Those of you that like my White Fight series and my White Fights live, this is even better.
Oh man, no, I mean, all of it's necessary. And I didn't know that was a thing. I'm going to go back and check that out because
White Fights was great. I'm gonna send it to you.
Somebody co-signed that earlier. I can't remember who said that, but absolutely. So yeah, guys, because baby girl's having some trouble getting out too.
Hey, thank you for having me up.
Go ahead and roll. But yeah, thank you everybody for the gifts, for the likes, for the love, for the follows. All right, yeah. So books, Chris, Polly's already out. Wireless, of course. Love you all. And so I'll leave you with my directive to love one another. All right? But with permission. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.